So let's just start kind of close to the beginning. You found when did you found New Things Lab?
So this was back in 2019 when I had just graduated.
Uh-huh.
This is was quite an interesting moment for me actually because I had just finished my master's degree in industrial design engineering, um, and it was a point where I was actually in a bit of a crisis because I've always had this next goal to work towards, right? So there's finishing middle school, finishing high school, picking a study. All of these next goals were also always super clear for me. I was quite, I didn't have much struggle picking what I wanted to study because I wanted to do something with technology and creativity. Um, but then actually at the point where I had obtained my master's degree, it were couple of quite heavy weeks for me because I was literally crying at some point at
Hmm.
which I thought, what is the next goal, right? I didn't have a job offer lined up straight after graduating that. Also, hadn't been actively looking for that. And it was kind of this purpose crisis, like what is it that I want to do in the world?
How old were you at
And
that time?
I was what is it, 24, right? 24, 25, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the school that you got the master's degree from in design?
This is a the school is called TU Delft, so Delft University of Technology.
Hmm.
Um,
Big
it's
school?
it's relatively large,
Uh-huh.
uh,
Yeah.
and it's well known for its design course.
Yeah.
You could say, yeah. Yeah.
I'm interested that you weren't spending, well, I guess when I got my master's, the last, I don't know, few weeks or months, everybody was looking for jobs. Were you unusual in your class that you hadn't spent a lot of time like trying to land a job? So therefore, when you got the degree, you had this 2 week period of not really knowing what you were going to do.
I think it's relatively common in the Netherlands to have this period, perhaps, but I was kind of overwhelmed by it because I was never the type of person who had these type of questions about my life. Basically, I always had this certain goal to work towards. So, yeah, it was for me. I think a lot of people have this type of struggle at some point in their lives, but for me, maybe it came relatively late, or I hadn't really thought about it at that time. But yeah, the good thing was I kind of was able to go back to the basics of what I love and what I've enjoyed doing during my studies, and that was always coming up with some uh, creative concepts to show people how things could be also done, like in a different way. Um, and that part of it I really love doing. So what I thought I will do, I needed some kind of vehicle, right, to get that type of service to the marketplace. So I
Hmm.
thought I'll call it a lab, some
Hmm.
experimental place. Um, I was living in like my students' kind of dorm room at the time, so there was no physical
That was
lab.
your lab.
Yeah, the lab was at that point more in my mind, but it was something that I thought, okay, then if I call myself this way, I put some stickers on my car, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be New Things Lab from now on, and people can hire me for all kinds of innovation
Huh.
jobs.
When
So
did that insight or epiphany occur to you? It sounds like the word lab was sort of unlocked the door, but were you sitting by a canal or where were you when that occurred to you?
I honestly can't remember the moment itself that this occurred, but it was more this whole embodiment, like the three words, New Things Lab. To be honest, they occurred also from a standpoint of positioning. So I wanted to be able to register the .com name and these kind of things. So I had to juggle with the exact words a little
Sure.
bit so that I could come up with something unique, basically.
Huh.
Um, but that's
It's a great
yeah.
name. I think that I'm trying to remember when I saw it on Instagram when I bought the memo whiteboard.
Mhm.
Somewhere in there, I wouldn't be surprised if the idea that, wow, this is New Things Lab, this sounds really cool, there's a lot of energy and it's a very attractive name.
Thanks. That's good to hear.
And you weren't there. Was there anybody else that had it that you had to sort of chase phantom rights to the name, or it was just available to make the website and the
Well,
whole thing?
I tried to register newthings.com at some point, but I got a 15K euros offer, and I was like, okay, maybe not this one.
Right, right. So then you just added lab, and then it was available. Yeah, I think
Exactly.
it's
Yeah,
better that way. That was good. Good
yeah, I
luck
think
then.
so. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and then I want to talk a lot about the memo, but when I was looking through, what was the first product that you created and went through this process of innovating, iteration, and bringing it to the market?
yeah. So the first one actually that I launched was Time Smiles. I have one over here. So
Okay,
that's
yeah, I
the
saw that. So it's relatively small, and
yeah. It's
uh,
quite small. It's a
and
small
so it would like
tablecloth.
sit on it could sit on a bedside table or a desk. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
So I
so
was
how does it
trying.
work? Describe it.
So the idea is that you have this clock, and it has two dots on it that tell the time. So the smaller dot does the minutes, and then the larger dot does the hours. And the dots are basically the eyes. And then you have this mouth that rotates as well with the smaller dot, creating like this very dynamic, ever changing smiley face that sits on your desk. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really weird. Like if the mouth is upside down, you can barely recognize the smile anymore. But then after a while, it will
Oh, it
start
comes
slowly
in.
smiling to you again.
So the optimal smiling face looks like, what would that be? Like 11 or 10:30 or so? What's the time you've got there?
Yeah. So the default face that clocks are usually put on when they are in a store is like 10 minutes past 10, right? So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of this type of look.
Yeah,
So then it's
right.
relatively
10
well
minutes
smiling.
past.
So
And
was a fun idea, and I sold like a couple. Let's say it was 80 pieces in total. I must have
uh-huh.
sold. I produced them all by hand, just with a 3D printer here, and just assembled everything manually with
What
some
did you
help of my
charge
friends.
for them?
I charged 35 euros for them.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, and actually, yeah, I sold out of all of the ones I made, but then didn't end up making more of it at that stage because actually the whole assembly part was taking me a lot of time, and
yeah,
it's it wasn't completely worth the amount that I could also charge for it anymore. And that's
right.
kind of when that project stopped at some point.
And then what was next after the smiling clock?
The next thing actually is that I, with a friend of mine, started developing. I think you have a couple of these as well.
Oh, I do, the bike
The
lights.
solar
Yeah.
bike lights.
Hmm.
Um, that actually is a project that's relatively successful. A lot of people in the Netherlands are using these at this moment.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was my friend's idea, and he had this really vision of okay, single-use bike lights, they're awful, right? So that's a lot what happens in the Netherlands. You buy for 3 or 5 euros, you would buy these bike lights that after the battery would run out, you would just throw it away.
Yeah.
Um, and actually, that part of it we really didn't like because we thought if we just add a simple thing like a solar panel onto there, we could extend the lifetime significantly. And the
Right.
ones that are currently on my bike, for instance, they've been there for I think now 3 years, and there's nothing that you even have to do with it. So even if you would have a replaceable battery normally, it would cost you quite a lot of effort to keep replacing that. And the real beneficial factor here is that you really don't have to care
Yeah.
about the lights anymore. You zip them to your bike, and it's
And now that's an example of someone coming to New Things Lab with an idea and asking you to help
yeah,
create it. And that was
yeah.
part of your original vision, I think.
That was actually the only vision at the beginning, that I thought I will just help people develop their products. Uh, but I don't think straight out of college I had the experience or the credibility for people to actually come to me. While I believed I could do it, there was not a lot of other people who would believe in that
Yeah.
I could really help them scale the product.
So the clock
Like
you
that.
made, that was your own invention. And then the
Exactly.
second
Yeah.
one was helping your friend. And then what
Yeah.
came after the bike light?
Okay, so this is an interesting story. Actually, I bought my mother an Apple AirTag. You're probably familiar with those,
Yeah.
right?
You
Yeah,
put it on and
and
you can tell where it is and track it
yeah,
with
you
your
can
iPhone.
exactly. You can tell where it is.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow, this is great for my mother. She always loses her keys. Perfect, super nice present. So I bought her one. I was one of the first buying that thing. Like in the week it came out, I thought, oh, that's really fun. Um, then I started doing some more research on it, and I started watching the keynote and these kind of things. And I was like, oh, actually, my mother cannot use this thing because she had an iPhone that was too old for it. She had an iPhone
Oh.
6, so
Hmm.
she wouldn't be able to use all the advanced features of it. I was like, okay, so now I have an AirTag, and I wasn't. I was like, but that's interesting because I was watching the keynote and it was saying that you could attach it to your bike, and I thought, okay, that's a good use case for the Netherlands, right? We're a really bicycle-centered country, and actually, this was the point where I thought, well, maybe I should make something that can help people attach the AirTag to their bikes because there was none available at the time. There was nothing.
Ah. Hmm.
And I was thinking this could be a great case to show how quickly New Things Lab could help a company getting something to the market. So that was the idea behind it. I thought it will be a good publicity thing, basically, to jump on this wave of attention that there was at the time for the AirTag
Right.
coming out. But then actually, the first day I got over €1,000 worth of pre-orders for it.
Oh.
I put it up online.
Uh-huh.
A couple of Apple blogs started picking it up, and I was like, okay, so probably I'm actually going to produce quite a few of these.
Yeah.
So I think that was the moment where I really saw that if you have the right idea combined with the right
Hmm.
need that people have, suddenly people were lining up to buy this basically piece of plastic, if you say it
Yeah.
not so nicely, but to buy it from me for a relatively good price. And I was like, okay, this could be a business, right? This was the
Yeah.
first time I actually thought, okay, product development not only costs money, but it could be a thing that could work.
And did you
Um,
have trouble meeting the demand that showed up so quickly once you put it out there?
Definitely. I made a promise to deliver those within 30 days.
Yeah.
And when I make a promise, I really want to be able to
Mm.
fulfill that, right? I feel very strongly that, okay, I promised these people a thing, I will deliver these people the thing. But it was crazy amount of stress because people just kept ordering them, and then from
Oh.
every order, I had these 30 days that I promised to
Oh.
fulfill that order.
Yeah.
So I was having them 3D printed at that moment, like industrially 3D printed. So those HP technique that can do like really refined 3D printing. This was the technique I'd chosen to put it out. Um, but then there's a lot of other parts, right? So I was in my shed here with the laser cutter. You saw me last week being there.
Yeah.
I was making all these little. Actually, you can see them here. There's this little piece of rubber with the New Things Lab logo inside
Hmm. Hmm.
that has that basically does the grippiness of the thing so that it doesn't slide off your bike.
Hmm.
These parts I was producing actually the boxes. I was making them myself
Hmm.
with these pieces of rubber. So all these little parts that
Yeah.
needed to come together. Um, at some point, we were sitting at the family table with my grandfather, who unfortunately is not among us anymore, but he was helping us creating all the packaging for it, putting
It was a
stickers,
family
labeling
affair.
them. Yes,
Huh.
it's,
Well, and
it
is
was
it
really
still
good fun.
going, or or did that come to an end, that project?
Mentally, for me, it has come to an end in the way that I'm not actively pursuing any product development in this area anymore.
Hmm.
But like tangibly, they are still being sold. Like every day, there's a couple of them that go
Yeah.
to people, and
Hmm.
they are still being delivered that way.
I
So,
see.
yeah.
Interesting. And then was the memo next?
The memo was next. Yes, yes.
Okay, let's talk about the memo and
Let's do it.
how what was the genesis or the little tickle you felt in your creative mind that first started you thinking about the memo?
Yeah. So I've always been a fan of pen and paper, or actually, I say pen and paper, but I must actually say whiteboards. I do really love whiteboards because they
Hmm.
have this sense of uh, Actually they're tangible, right? A bit like a pen and paper would be, but it's not definitive like actually
Yes.
a pen and paper would also be. So
Hmm.
so there's some space. It's a brilliant space in between those two things. I think it's not as definitive, but it still feels as if it could be, right,
Hmm.
while you write on it. Um, so I tried to find whiteboards wherever I went to basically make a quick drawing on if I had an idea, something like that. So I actually had this empty picture frame for actually for years on my desk. Just bought a picture frame. It's a nice piece of glass. It has a nice frame around it, so I would put it on my desk and I would write on that. So this
You
was
just
my,
write on the glass?
yeah, just write on the
Yeah,
glass with the whiteboard marker.
sure. Yeah.
And that would be my ideal way of thinking about ideas, basically. If
Hmm.
that would be on my desk, and I would just put a white piece of paper in it in order for it to be white in
Uh-huh.
the picture frame. But that was the kind of the first thing where I thought, okay, I need some type of portable whiteboard. Actually, it would be so great if I could take this wherever I went.
What would you do
So
with when you had it on the desk and you would write something? Would you then take a picture of it, or what would be the next step in your process for something that you'd captured on that transitory
yeah,
place?
either that or it could also be that I would digitize it after, right? So I would the framework that I drew up in this whiteboard, I could maybe digitize it quite
Hmm.
yeah, shortly after. So to in some sort of editing software, I could make like the thought steps that I had in my mind, or create a Google Doc with a planning, for instance. It's
I
great
see.
for these kind
So
of
you would be
planning.
typing in the information that you had captured on the
Yes,
whiteboard.
but then more structured, because I think the whiteboard is a great tool pre-structure. So you don't have the clear structure yet in your mind,
Uh-huh.
and typing it out would kind of uh, yeah,
It
distract you
shapes it.
from the structure that you're trying to formalize. So
Yeah, yeah. Would you write in different colors on that or just black?
almost never. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
I, I always use black. Actually, it's
uh. So
makes
the
it simple.
portable whiteboard as an idea, it's helpful to see where that came from,
Yeah.
and then what happened? How did it get to? Well, there are probably a bunch of interim steps. Or was there a version of this that was radically different than the one I have, or how did you start
Well,
creating it?
yeah, I started thinking of, okay, I want to carry this thing around, but I would never want to create another thing to carry around, because if you go out, you already have to remember to take your phone, to take your wallet, to take your keys. So basically, I really did not want to add a fourth item to that you could forget or not have with you, or this is the type of
Hmm.
thinking I followed. So keys were kind of out, because creating a key holder that would have a big enough whiteboard, it doesn't make so much sense.
Hmm.
But then the smartphone, I thought, is a great opportunity, actually, because it already has this kind of shape, that it has a good amount of space. So that was my first direction, to come up with like a phone case
Ah.
that could have this rewritable whiteboard thing attached to
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But it has all sorts of different problems, because phones, they change every year, so you have to make a lot of different models for a lot of different people.
Right.
And actually, the foldability of the memo currently has is really practical, because the notes, they stay untouched, basically.
Yes.
That's
Otherwise, they'd wipe off.
exactly, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, after making a few like quick models of that iteration, I actually went to the wallet as the main concept to try and integrate the whiteboard with.
Hmm.
Um,
And so,
and
and when you went to the wallet idea, because currently does it holds four credit cards in the slots or
six,
six?
actually, yeah,
Six.
should be able to
Okay.
carry six, unless they have this really high up embossed letters,
Uh,
then it could be four. Yeah,
and you can't slide cash into it. It's pretty much just for credit cards or license, a few things that you want to have with you. Do you have a
exactly.
wallet in your own use? Do you have a wallet in addition to this MO wallet whiteboard? Or do you
No,
put what do you have in your memo wallet? Because I just have one. I have a fanny pack. I think I'm my wife says it's a very poor fashion statement to see
yeah,
me walking around, but I have all of my gear in it. I've got microphones and things like that, and my money and lots of credit cards, and Medicare and
Yeah.
all that. I could never get all of that into this. So I just chose my favorite credit card, which is the Apple credit card, which is, this nice minimalist white card that only has my name on it. And
Mhm.
but do you also carry what do you put in this so that you don't have to have it be an added thing to carry?
Yeah, so I have had times where I would put a folded banknote in it, but Netherlands these days is largely cashless, so there's not a
Sure.
lot of reason to actually carry some cash
Hmm.
around still. Um, and uh, Basically, my six most important cards I would carry normally. So
Right.
driver's license, public
Hmm.
transport thing, health insurance card, these kind of
Yeah.
typical things you want to carry always.
Hmm.
Um,
And
yeah,
before you
that's
just had a leather wallet that you would put those in?
actually before this I had this other. There's a famous Dutch brand that makes a wallet that is basically an extruded piece of aluminum
Oh.
that you can also put six cards in.
Hmm.
I think it's relatively popular in the Netherlands. A lot of people have this thing, but I had one of those and it was really functional for me.
Ah, so that
Um,
was kind of a direct lead into this when you think about it.
in a way, it's a similar. When it comes to card storage, it's a relatively
Hmm.
similar way of working, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but the whole aspect of being able to draw something or write something was, of course, not in
Yeah.
that.
So you at some point you started a Kickstarter campaign. Tell what happened with that. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so Kickstarter is a different landscape than it used to be. Like there was a time on Kickstarter that it was super easy to get anything funded, basically, because there were a lot of people watching and not a lot of projects being added. Right now, it seems it's almost the opposite. So there's a lot of projects every day that come
Oh.
to Kickstarter, but there's not a lot of them that get the attention that they maybe deserve.
Uh-huh.
So that was quite uh, yeah, I got a lot of advice from a lot of people who were actually doing a Kickstarter or read a lot about how to approach that. And basically, it's about, you could say, tricking the algorithm into understanding that this is a valuable product, and you do
Hmm.
that by getting a lot of traffic to this particular campaign. So Kickstarter knows, okay, that's probably an interesting one,
Hmm.
and then it starts serving it out to other people.
Hmm. How
Um,
did you generate that initial push of traffic that caught the eye of the algorithm?
Yeah, so different techniques actually. So there's this social marketing aspect to it. There's family and friends that you could organize to
Hmm.
get as many wallets as yeah, on the first day, basically. That's
Yeah.
the idea there.
Hmm.
Within the first 24 hours to get as many people to there. Um, and I had kind of this list of people as well that I had met during the whole. Because what I like to do when I develop a product is carry it around, show it to as many people as I can,
Hmm.
and basically get an understanding of if they would buy it, what they would
Yeah.
like about it. So over time, I got quite a nice list of people that said, "Okay, if you ever launch this thing, please
Oh,
let me know."
yeah.
So
That
that's
was
also
smart.
one.
They
Yeah,
they were they were part of ad hoc focus groups, and they ended up
exactly,
being having a chance to be beta testers or among the first buyers. Hmm.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
And then once you did that, it sounds like it was fairly successful as a Kickstarter campaign, having done that much work to make it a success.
You could say so. It was for me quite an eye opener to see how, yeah, what the total revenue. Like we got 70K dollars, I think, something like
Hmm.
that. Um, and for me, that felt like, okay, that's relatively good impact that we can have by this platform alone. So
Yeah.
I sent a big thank you note the other day to Kickstarter to just, yeah, communicate my appreciation for how this platform was able to accelerate the
Hmm.
business. And it's pretty cool in that sense that it can
Yeah.
really, yeah, it felt like a kickstart. It felt exactly what the platform was meant to
That's right.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit more about the product itself. On your website, newthingslab.com. That's a good URL. You've got you talk about the elements of Dutch design, and
Yes.
I've spent 6 weeks in the Netherlands. I think in the '80s or so on some kind of an exchange program when I worked for a gas company, the Atlantic Exchange it was called. So I
Hmm.
have some sense of what Dutch design is like. In Rotterdam, the buildings were kind of modern and minimalist and but
Yeah.
how do you experience the key elements of what people think of as Dutch design?
Yeah, a good question. And I think it's not so clearly defined as other types of design might be, but I can definitely tell you what it means for me. And what it means for me is, I think you probably sensed when you were in the Netherlands this pragmatism or focus on functionality that a lot of Dutch people have.
Hmm.
So there's not a lot of fringe or a lot of decorations usually in Dutch design that you could say.
Hmm.
Really focusing on the core of what something is meant to be.
Hmm.
And there's also a sense of, I think that's the second aspect of it, that there's this bold and playfulness that can be around Dutch
Hmm.
design as well. So
Hmm.
you have this famous cup. I'm not sure if you know this one. That is that is made by Droog Design. It has this big ears basically, and you can drink out of it like this. This sense of that, I think that's a great embodiment of what. What the playful aspect and the really bold aspect of Dutch design can mean.
Hmm.
And I think both of these things I try to incorporate in my work.
And then you've another way of describing the mission or the vision of New Things Lab, core principles: slow down, create happiness, make it simple. Uh, what what's the source of those principles that did you spend time as a Zen student or where did those things start becoming really important to you?
Yeah, so if you look at our if you look at what we offer currently, there's a relative simplicity to all of these, I would say,
Yeah.
and this comes from probably myself and uh, from my inner urge to do things right. So if we um, if we are trying to come up with a certain functionality or a certain thing that we want to put into the market, let's say the bike lights is a great example.
Hmm.
You're talking to a PCB manufacturer that does the electronics manufacturing, and they're like, well, what things do you want? We can do three different modes of different flashing, and we can make RGB colors, and
Hmm.
there's um, there's really this uh, big urge for me, at least as a designer, to create simplicity and to make sure that things are um, yeah as fitting to the use case as you can make them. So our bike lights currently, I'm not sure if you have the first or second generation, but we only have the on off currently. So
Hmm.
there's no other ways you can just turn it on, turn it off. There's no flickering or
Yeah.
different modes there.
Yeah, I like that.
Um,
I think I do have that one, and there's so many choices these days. I mean, I you talk about an inner urge to do things right, but I think a lot of people have that inner urge to not have so many choices that they have to be making about so many things. So
yeah.
that, that seems helpful.
Mhm.
Uh, Products that bring a smile create happiness. Uh, have you learned what creates happiness and what creates smiles in a reliable way, or are you always kind of surprised by where the smiles come from and things that you thought would bring a smile don't, and the reverse?
Very good question. I think the the reason or actually yeah what I try to do as a designer, so there's I think among designers there's two types. There's the ones that really enjoy creating a solution for a super specific problem. So there's a lot of people in our studies, mainly we have this trajectory called design for interaction, they focus, for instance, on one person that is, for instance, visually impaired. It could be,
Hmm.
and they're following them for 2, 3, 4 days, trying to pinpoint all their pain points, and trying to see how they can make life as good as possible for this particular person. So there's a big depth to that type
Hmm.
of design, I would say. And then there's the type of designers, myself included, that do something different, which is try to create minor moments of relative pleasure during the day for a large group of people. So
That's great. Minor moments of relative pleasure throughout the day for lots of people.
yes, I think that's kind of the way I see it, and both are really valuable trajectories of design, I would say.
Yeah.
And I found myself being part of that second group. That doesn't have the depth of the impact, perhaps, but
Hmm.
does have the scale that could
Yeah.
be there.
It's kind of wide versus deep.
Yeah, yeah, I
Hmm.
think so.
Um, oh, you've got a picture of you juggling the clocks on your website. Do you really know how to juggle, or was that photoshopped?
It's a very good question, and you might have caught me there. It's one of those moments where my creative vision surpassed my actual skills, I think. Uh, I went out with my sister to take that photo, and I juggled the lower two, but the top one is Photoshop.
Oh, that's great. It's a virtual juggling. That's
Exactly.
genius.
Yeah.
Well, it convinced me. It looked very juggling.
Yeah.
Um,
Very good.
let's see. Well, this is good background. You know, I spent the podcast is pretty dormant now in terms of covering the Kindle and Amazon, but I still I did spend 15 years, and I get to talk to Jeff Bezos twice and a lot of the team members on the Kindle team. So I have the experience of having seen the first Kindle in 2007, which was this
That's great.
crazy awkward thing. To restart it, you had to get a paperclip and figure out how to get it into a hole to restart the original Kindle, and then it
Wow.
went through so many iterations, and it's had, you know, a huge impact. But maybe one way to think about it is uh, which kind of designer was involved in making the Kindle. Jeff Bezos, I think, was the key person initiating it,
Yeah.
but they had this Lab
Yeah.
126. Uh, how would you compare the design and the creation, the innovation of the Kindle with some of the things that you've experienced at New Things Lab, and just how you look at it as a designer?
Yeah. So that's interesting. I actually bought a Kindle, I think, 2 years ago. So I have this small one.
The basic
Um,
one.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
the really small one. I always carry it in my backpack because I really like how it's so small that you just don't notice it. You can take it anywhere.
Right.
And I have like this Delft design guide on it, which I try to reference a lot if I'm giving a workshop or something like that.
Hmm.
I usually have this thing that I want to have a quick reference, and this is basically how I use my Kindle the
Huh.
most. Um, and from a in a way, I would say the thoughts behind what makes Kindle great and what makes, for instance, Memo great are relatively similar in a way that one bold choice is made, for instance, by using the e-ink screen.
Hmm.
Uh, that makes it such a different experience from everything else available, but is also a super limiting choice in a way, right? Talking about those blinking options and the RGB colors and everything that you could do, they
Yeah.
choose to not do. Uh, and I think that's what's really the strength of this product, that it's designed around this very specific case that
Hmm.
people have. Um, and yeah, I really love that, and I think it's yeah, in many ways it's a comparable thing that it really helps you refine focus basically.
Yeah, and I would suspect that if you looked at the design process, it would have been more like you described, falling around the person with who's vision impaired, because they learn so much about the book business and what how people read books and what works. And you know, one of his first insights was he wanted people to be able to download books to this thing wirelessly. Before there was a
Yeah.
Sony reader, but you had to plug it in, and and then the engineers had to figure out how to do these impossible things that Bezos told them had to be part of the product,
Yeah,
which is kind of a he gets sort of the fun part of the job, I think, to dream up something and then
yeah,
hire a bunch of smart people in San Francisco to figure out how to make it. Uh, but and I think the other thing that when I had a chance to talk to him, he made a big point of saying that the people working on the Kindle were missionaries. They didn't see themselves as marketers or they tended to people who loved books, loved reading. The whole health of the book industry was important to them.
yeah,
And I think I sense some of that in you as well, that if you're a designer and you have a mission that's bigger than yourself, that's sort of motivating because it's not just mercenary, it's not just about the number of units that you sell. Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
do you see that as sort of a key to creativity, that the most creative uh, the, the 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 way to create most effectively has to have some sense of mission to it.
I think the mission really helps in refining because spending. I had the first idea, so I think I have it here, or I have one of the early versions. This is version 5 already, but it's like a 3D printed version of Memo.
Mhm. Right.
Um, I made this in early 2020, so this goes a long way back.
Yeah.
And to keep motivated and to keep really involved in a project like this that nobody tells you to do, just coming from your own mind, basically,
Hmm.
it requires a sense of purpose that you create yourself. I guess it's
Otherwise, you just give up on it.
yeah, it's super easy to give up, and I think that it's yeah because it there are no deadlines. Nobody's really saying, "Hey, when is this thing coming?" Or if it's just for yourself, it's something uh, that you have to keep motivated for somehow. And I think purpose goes a long way there to really keep you going and to think this is. I strongly believe that this is something the world could benefit from, and going from there, yeah, it keeps you really into it.
And to loop back to your sense of the purpose of it or the vision, it was to give people that combined place of transitory writing, that impermanence, and yet it's a physical thing. That you just believe that invention was going to benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, what I get my most motivation from is that I can help people think clearly. So
Yeah.
that's what I help myself doing in the process. I mean, um, that there's this really difference, right, between sitting outside preparing a meeting on your phone, and there's texts coming in. There's I think think I can speak for us both that we're both quite curious people, and
Hmm.
we have a certain weakness. I would say that if you go on YouTube and find a video of how a World War II plane design is meant to function and meant to work, and there's this endless stream of super interesting things that could come
Right.
your way. And behind every notification is this kind of a story that you might want to focus your attention to, or maybe not.
Right.
Um, so actually, that's something I've helped myself a lot with developing Memo. That I would leave my phone inside, I would go outside, sit there with just my little whiteboard and pen, and prepare that meeting. And I would
Yeah.
feel like I had thought way more clearly than I could have thought without it. And this I think because of course I'm bringing a lot of new products in the world, and you could say there's possibly a negative impact to that with in terms of sustainability and these kind of things. But this is what really keeps me from thinking I'm on the right mission. That hopefully I
Mhm.
can help other people get this clarity of mind as well. That's
Yeah.
really what
Yeah.
I'm
That's
trying to
brilliant.
accomplish.
I've had the same feeling. I've been using the Remarkable tablet for
Yeah,
now I use the Scribe because I like that. And I had that same sense that when I really needed to think about something, usually I'm not very good with numbers, and anytime I had to, budget something, I would pick that up as opposed to my computer or an iPad or even paper and pencil. And I kind of trained myself that when I picked up that thing,
Yeah.
I was entering a mode of sort of left, right, whatever it is. The analytical brain
Yeah.
was privileged in that when I used that particular tool, and it seemed to be kind of reinforcing that way that it became a habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds like you've captured some of that same sense with the memo that when it's a defined space, it isn't permanent, and when you're preparing for a meeting or something, when you pick it up, your mind has sort of been trained to act a
Exactly.
certain
Yeah.
way when you have it in your hands.
Yeah. I strongly believe that that can be true. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Uh, can you say anything about what you're currently thinking about? What's way back in the envisioning stage of what might become a next product?
Yeah, so actually, what I'm trying to do now is I've set up a flow, and I'm not sure if you were part of that flow already, but that people can give feedback to the products that we are selling. So it's now even more improved that people get a little card with it. So they would scan that, and they can give feedback to the way they are using the product.
Hmm.
Um, and based on that, I would like to make a second version of Memo because I really see that it resonates with people.
Hmm.
And there's recurring feedback. I would say that that's probably good to do something about in the next version.
Hmm.
And so that's what I'm working on now. I have some early prototypes coming next week, and trying to slowly. I'm definitely not in a rush with this development because people also with the current generation, it's going really well, and so maybe somewhere 2025, I'm planning to launch a second version of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and in the meantime, also, I kind of envision a comeback for Time Smiles. I'm not fully ready to share that yet, but there's a, uh, there's a good likelihood that I will make a, a more refined version of Time Smiles
Which is the clock that has the
that, yeah,
eye.
sorry, that's the
Hmm.
clock. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
time smiles. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, we will be looking forward to it. And if someone wants to order the memo, what's the best way to do that?
It's on newthingslab.com, and it will be quite easy. It's under inventions, and then people can,
Well, and
yeah, would be honored.
I want to praise your shipping department because when I ordered mine, I mistakenly had it sent to my home up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And somewhere there was a number and it said, I don't think that's a number in the US. And I called it to say, could you change the shipping address? And someone answered right away, and it was you. And
Yes.
you were able to ship it to Florida instead. So, are you going to be hiring so that you're not handling all the change of address requests that come from people in Florida, or how will that work?
Well, that's a good question, actually. And I've been thinking about doing that. But on the other hand, I really love the moments that I can spend talking to customers, actually.
Yeah.
And when the phone rings, I really appreciate it generally. I'm not at a skill yet that it's ringing constantly. Like
Uh-huh.
I would get one or two calls a week, actually,
Yeah.
in that sense, because not a lot of times things are really going wrong, and most of things are emails. So for emails, I'm thinking of perhaps doing some customer service representative
Hmm.
in the near future. But actually, for calls, I'm really I'm going to keep putting my number there for quite a while until it gets really out of hand. Because actually, the interactions that we had, for instance, it's really
Yeah.
cool because I would drop a quick question like, "Hey, what do you intend to use it for?" and would
Hmm.
get some valuable feedback to see, yeah, to probably improve the product from then on. So it's actually quite nice. I like it.
Yeah. Well, it's been really fun, and it's been fun talking with you. I've been speaking with Nyckle Sijtsma, founder of New Things Lab. Thanks very much, Nyckle.
Thanks so much, Len, for having me.